Hello everyone, my name is Grant, I'm the King of New Camelot, and today I'm going to be telling you about and explaining to you about 10 things the book, Micronations and the Search for Sovereignty got wrong. So without further ado, let's get stuck straight into it. Number 1. The Story of Sealand. The Principality of Sealand is one of the earliest micronations and is now what most micronationalists refer to as one of the old guard. Now, how the people who wrote the book got it so wrong on this one is beyond me, because there are news reports, there are interviews, there are over 40 years worth of information about everything to do with Sealand out there, and they got it completely wrong. So first, so that you understand this, I'm going to tell you the story that they say that's told about Sealand in the book, and then I'm going to tell you the correct information, the story of Sealand itself, as it should have been told, and as it has been told by everyone else. In the book, the doctor who wrote it says that a German by the name of Roy Baker attempted to illegally sell postage stamps. And in order to avoid being taken to court over this situation, he moved himself and his family out to an abandoned World War II sea fortress, and declared it the Principality of Sealand, and stated that it was an independent nation, and that the next time he went on shore, he was arrested and taken to court and found guilty of selling postage stamps illegally, and the court told him that his fortress was not an independent nation, that it was part of the United Kingdom. And none of this is true. Sealand does sell postage stamps as a way of making money. However, that is not why Roy Baker moved out there. And he is not German. He was a major in the British Army. So this doctor is so intelligent that he can't even get someone's nationality right. And After leaving the army, he took up being a radio DJ. However, rock and roll music was banned by the local government. It doesn't really go into detail about that part, probably because it's kind of boring, bylaws and all that kind of crap. And so, in defiance, he took his family and he moved out to a fortress in the sea where he was eventually made to leave for trespassing. Now, prior to that, prior to being removed for trespassing, he did set up a pirate radio station on that fortress. So he moved to another fortress afterwards, but instead of setting up another pirate radio station, he declared it the Principality of Sealand and stated that it was an independent nation on the grounds that it was no longer, on the grounds that it was had been abandoned by the British government after the Second World War, which was true, and two, because it was not inside British waters, which again was true. So now the part of him getting arrested was true, but the true reason behind that is a bit more juicy than what the Doctor says in his book. In fact, what actually happened was nothing to do with postage stamps, as I previously mentioned. Essentially, there were some men on a boat who wolf whistled at the Prince of Sealand's young sister, and he took offense to this and took a pot shot at them with a flare gun. There was a citizen of Sealand who was in fact German, so that may be where the Doctors become confused. If you would like to know more about Sealand, then you can find out more easily just by going onto YouTube and typing in Principality of Sealand. Number 2. The Montevideo Convention and the UN's comments on creating new states. The Montevideo Convention is something I've brought up before, and it is basically a set of categories and written out by the UN, and if a community meets these categories, all these categories, then they have the right to be accepted as a state. And the categories are: the state must have, the community claiming to be a state must have a functioning government, a functioning form of government, a defined defendable territory, the ability to contact and have relations with governments and officials from other nations, and a permanent population. The doctor states that doctor states in his book that the Montevideo Convention does not state that you need to have a functioning form of government. Which is not true. It literally says in the Montevideo Convention, a functioning form of government. He also states in his book that the UN has said that it is almost impossible to come up with a system to determine who does and does not have the right to become a new state or nation, which will do the job it's intended to do. This is not what the United Nations have said. What the United Nations have said is that it's extremely difficult to find a way to stop governments of existing nations from trying to dictate who does and does not have the right to be a new state or nation. And that the Montevideo Convention is the best option that we're ever going to have, most likely. Now, the problem is not complex at all. It's really very simple. The UN made an error in judgment with the Montevideo Convention. They made it optional whether or not nations who are part of the UN could sign it. It would be better for everybody, existing nations and people and communities who want to become new states, if signing the Montevideo Convention was compulsory. Because you see, the problem is only countries who have signed the Montevideo Convention can be forced to abide by the Montevideo Convention. In other words, you can create a new state and meet all the conditions of the Montevideo Convention, but if your country's government did not sign the Montevideo Convention, then they can and most likely will just turn around and say, well, sorry guys, but we know that you did meet all the definitions of that treaty, but we didn't sign that treaty and we don't plan to, so we're not going to be accepting you as having the right to be your own state. Get lost. And it happens every day. And the reason this error happened was quite simple as well, I can tell you right now. Arrogance and laziness. The UN is used to having things be that if they can get the United States on board with something they want to do, then all the other members of the United Nations will jump on board too, because the US has agreed. Get the US to agree to something, and the rest of the members of the UN will agree to it. Only thing was, with the Montevideo Convention, that is not what happened. Very few countries actually got on board with the Montevideo Convention, even after the United States did. The world relies too heavily on the governments rely too heavily on the United States and set their bets too often with the United States. But that's a discussion for another time. I apologize, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Number 3. Micronationalism has no positive impact for the world. It has been proven by medical science that creative and artistic endeavors are beneficial for body and mind in humans. And honestly, personally, I can't think of anything more creative or artistic than trying to build a completely new nation. Number 4. There is no legal premise for micronations to be recognized. Now, this is a proof of not just something being incorrect, but something being pure nonsense. The doctor in the book acknowledges that the Montevideo Convention exists, while also stating that there is no legal precedence to recognize micronations. Both cannot be true, and since the Montevideo Convention is a real thing, and we know that for a fact, therefore we can assume that there is legal precedence. Have I lost count? Number 4? Yeah, it was 4. There's a 5. Micronations cannot win against macronations. Now, the reason I say this is incorrect is because the micronation of Y went up against their local council. The ruler of Y quit the council after they turned around and changed their mind about letting him have a driveway up to his house. On the grounds that, I don't know, some little crap about it would be bad for the environment in that area. I'll go more into that into number 6, into that backstory at number 6. But basically, the end result was that he built a medieval-style drawbridge, and the Environment Department stated that there was nothing they could do about it to allow the council to force him to take it away again, because it was wood. And the council spent, this nation was in Australia, and the council spent the equivalent of £90,000 fighting this old man over whether or not he could have a driveway to his house to make it easier for him to have access. So if we take a look at the results of that confrontation, the old dude got his driveway. He was allowed to continue calling himself a micronation. The council spent its entire budget each year for 4 years on fighting him. So I would say the micronation won, wouldn't you? Next up is the story of Y. The micronation of Y, according to the Doctor's book, was formed because this guy had a problem with his council over the driveway. And the fact is, he's not someone with a fallout with the council. He was a member of the council, and he walked away from the council and created a micronation. And to drop back to another point that I made earlier on, he actually spoke to a lawyer, and the lawyer said to him, yes, there's no legal problem with him leaving the council to create a micronation. Next, micronations have no benefit to the wider world. There are plenty of micronations, like before they have dedicated themselves to wildlife preservation. They put birdhouses up in the name of whoever joins their Patreon, whenever someone new joins their Patreon. West Arctica is registered as a charitable organization which supports animals in the Arctic. The list goes on. Next, no micronations have ever been recognized by the UN. The micronation, the truth behind this is that it is not true that no micronations have ever been acknowledged by the UN. The micronation of West Arctica has got United Nations observer status. They have been involved in several UN projects. lastly, I know that wasn't quite 10, but I'm having trouble remembering the other things because his book was long and very boring. But all of it is garbage. Last thing is, there are no serious micronations out there. It is all just people having fun or protesting against things. That is what it says in this guy's book, and it is just not true. Look, if you look at the Empire of Samaria, the Kingdom of Wayward, us here at the United Kingdom of New Camelot, there are a lot of serious micronations out there, and we are capable of doing everything that any of the existing nations can do, if not more. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and maybe join our Patreon or give us a one-time donation in Buy Me a Coffee. If you would like to join the New Camelot community, you can do so by letting me know either in the comments of the video or preferably by DMing me on Reddit. Please do watch our other videos. And I will catch you in the next one.